Okay, so we had a quick, we had a recap also of the male reproductive system in the last classes. So I will not go back there and again revise. We'll directly start with this female reproductive system. So majorly, it's a kind of counterpart of the male reproductive system, or we can say male reproductive system is a counterpart of female, because most of the organs, though they do different functions in terms of whether sexual intercourse or pregnancy or gestation or delivery of the baby or even after childbirth, but there is still kind of some similarity between these two reproductive systems, that is male and female. So in case of female, it consists of a pair of ovaries, and this like kind of similar to a pair of testes that you male human has. A fallopian tube, which is called as oviducts as well, and this is again something similar to your vasa deferens or vasa differentia, which conducts the or which carries the reproductive gamete cells from the organ where they are produced to the organ where they are supposed to be fertilized. So that way, then uterus, vagina, that is vagina is also called as external genitalia, that is the external genital in short. Accessory genital glands, so these are accessory reproductive glands in short, which is like how in case of male it was Cowper's gland, here it is Bartholin's glands, and I guess these are the names of the people who had discovered them. And the mammary glands, which is part of the breast, and also one of the very important characteristic of the mammals in as a whole category. So these organs, they are structurally and functionally support the process of, that the first one is ovulation, of course, that is the release of the ovule from the ovaries. Fertilization, that is fusion of the sperm and the ova. Then pregnancy, after the fusion of the sperm and ova, the growth or what we call gestation of the fetus, that whole period where the fetus grows into like a completely complete child, and then the childbirth during the delivery of the baby, as well as the afterbirth like actions of these organs. So these all organs, they take part in these different processes. Now, we will be looking at individual structures of these ovary. But then here I will just give you an overall idea of, because some of the names, they might sound so alien as of now, because we haven't looked at the structures in detail, but still I will just quickly go over it. So this at the center is the uterus. These two kind of round oval structures, these are the ovaries. This structure around the ovary, which is a finger-like projection, this whole structure is called as fallopian tube, and we will go into the different parts of the fallopian tube. But as of now, this is the fallopian tube. Then what else we have is the cervical canal or cervix, and I had mentioned in the last class that this part is wrongly labeled here. Cervix is not this wall, rather the cervix, the arrow has to go up to this opening, and that is the cervix, and then this becomes the cervical canal. So please ignore this part only. So that is not the cervix, it's actually a part of this endometrium, myometrium and perimetrium, which are the walls of the uterus structure. So this is not the cervix, but rather this is the cervix. And then the vagina, which is the external opening of this female reproductive system. So these are the overall structures that we are going to look at individually as and when it comes. The most important thing that we should look at now, if you look at this two-dimensional figure, which is kind of cross section from top to bottom, or vertical cross sections you can say, you can see that uterus is kind of triangular shape. But when you look at this like the side section, that is the lateral view of the reproductive system, you can see uterus is a C-shaped body, and it is no more just a triangular pouch in the female like the abdominal cavity, right? So the total the way we look at these organs from 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional drastically changes. The reason to keep this slide is just to give you that idea, how does it exactly look like inside the human body. uh, so this is the uterine tube, that is the uterus tube, which actually takes the ovules, that is the fallopian tube in short. Here it is just named differently. This is a part of your colon. Colon is the large intestine part. um, yeah, so this is the uterus. The opening of the uterus is actually that this is the cervix part, and then at the end is the vagina. Before, just next to the vagina, there is this okay, now again, one important part that I must mention here is diagram is shown in a mirror image. I don't know if you can imagine that part, but like if you say this is the front part, right, then clitoris will come front side, right. Then also the urinary opening will also come on the front side. So I guess I will not complicate it here. You just forget this part. I will show you in different diagram. Majorly what I want to show you is this is the uterus, and that's like a C-shaped pouch, and the rest of the structure, they are aligned, like especially ovaries on two sides of this uterus. And ovaries, like they are shown in this diagram, they are not this big. Ovaries are relatively very small structure, and like usually I don't know why people show in diagram so big. That also I will show you in reality how does the ovary look like. So this is just the basic introduction of the female reproductive system. This is the diagram which specifically shows the anus part, and with respect to this colon and anus, the uterus. Now you can imagine the C shape has been reverted, right. So the base of the C is towards the abdomen, and the opening of the C shape, or the hands, or whatever, the end part of the C shape is towards the back side. So that is the way uterus is arranged. Then this is again the cervix and the vagina. I don't know if they show, yeah, urethra is shown here. You see, just next to the vaginal opening, there is urethral opening as well, which is connected to the bladder, which is right next to your ovaries. Sorry, the uterus. Yeah. So this is the actual arrangement of all these structures. Now, if you look at this diagram, again, I don't want to force you to look because it's kind of blurred, and the opened uterus. Those who cannot, please don't look. Uh, this is the uterus. Now, uterus here is kind of distended. Distended means it is little overgrown. So, one reason could be either whosoever this woman is, either she was like she has conceived, that is the baby is kind of growing in her uterus. Or second could be it is the just before the menstruation, that is the last few days where the menstrual secretion happens, the uterus has grown to this size. Could be two reasons. I don't know what exactly is the reason of this increased size of uterus, but yeah, this could be two reasons. Here it is shown as the ovary structure. Now you can imagine this is again a little bigger ovary, right. And this could be either a swollen ovary or so, but ideally this, if you compare the size of the uterus and size of the ovary, they are drastically different. And this tube like structure that you see is the fallopian tube. Now if you look at the side part, it is actually cut open, the abdomen is cut open, and then uh, these parts are being clicked. So this is the diagram how these organs are located inside the body. Okay, so then we will start with one by one structure. First one, and one of the important ones in the female reproductive system, is the ovary. So the ovaries, they lie next to the kidneys on of its side. So usually, kidneys are little on the dorsal side of the body. So next to them you will see the ovary, not again on the outer parts, they are more on the inner part on its side. They are suspended from the dorsal body wall of mesentery, which is a kind of mesentery refers to fold of membrane, which is called as meso-ovarium. So I'll go back to this diagram. So ovaries, they are not hanging just with this tube-like structure connecting to the what is called uterus. This whole thing that you see enclosed in this space, that is actually a membrane, and which is what is your meso-ovarium. And this is a fold of membrane which is holding the whole of the ovary structure. So apart from attaching just to here, that is how ideally it is shown, but it is not just attached here, rather they are attached throughout the upper side of the ovaries. So that is the ovaries, they are suspended from the dorsal body wall by a mesentery, which is a fold of membrane called meso-ovarium, and is also attached to the uterus by a double fold of peritoneum called ovarian ligament. And this particular portion is called as ovarian ligament, where ovaries, they are attached to the uterus. So you will see, if you in reality, if you see, you will see a kind of striated muscle like structure which are connecting the ovaries to the uterus here, and that ligament, that is ovarian ligament, is kind of different from this membrane or fold of the membrane or folds of these walls, whichever is holding the ovaries. So that is meso-ovarium and the ovarian ligament, which are just the structural features to hold the ovary in place next to fallopian tube and the uterus. The ovaries, they are kind of almond shaped, solid grayish pink in the physical appearance, 2 to 4 centimeter in length. Now this is what I was referring to. 2 to 4 centimeter is just a very small shape. 1.5 centimeter in width and 1 centimeter in thickness. So you can imagine ovaries could be just like this small. In picture, if you zoom in or zoom out, then the size like differs, and we are not really sure what is the exact size. But this dimension says that they are relatively very, very small structure. Like these ovaries, they have exocrine function, that is to produce ova, and also perform endocrine function. Exocrine function is not for hormones, otherwise this would be like exoendocrine gland, but that is not the case. Pancreas is the only structure which behaves as exoendocrine gland inside the body. Otherwise rest all structures, they are either exocrine or endocrine. In case of ovary, this is called exocrine with respect to secretion of ova. Yeah, it's not with respect to the secretion of the hormone. And the endocrine function of this ovary is to secrete the female sex hormone, that is estrogen and progesterone. So these are the two main hormones which regulate most of the reproductive processes in the female body. That is apart from the production of the ovum structure. So this is again the basics. Now if we look at the microscopic anatomy of the ovary, I guess, yeah, I have a picture of this. Yeah, microscopic anatomy of the ovary, that is when you section the ovary, how does it look like? So there are various layers and various structures. Now again, quite a few structures will be new in terms of vocabulary. So there is,
I have a
yeah,
question. Uh, if ovary has an endocrine and an
but
exocrine function, why is it not called endoexocrine?
because if it is hormonal secretion, then only we call it like endocrine or exocrine, right? Now when I spoke specifically here, it is the production of the ova, which is not a hormone, which is a structure, right, which is more of a gamete.
So why are they calling it an exocrine function in the first place?
It just a kind of analogy that they are trying to give. It's not literally the exocrine function like a hormone.
Okay.
it just because endocrine is something that will release these hormones inside the blood, right? And exocrine is something that is releasing in the cavities or outside the body, right? Either of these two. Now when this ova is produced, it is secreted into like it is released from the ovaries and it's taken over by the fallopian tube, which is again like a tube like structure, and that is why they are calling it as exocrine. But this has nothing to do with the as such endocrine or exocrine gland, this part specific, the exocrine function of the ovary. Endocrine is means the same like how it means in terms of the hormonal secretions.
So ovary is an endocrine gland in the
Yeah, that's it. You can forget about this part, that is fine. You can just simply say the ovaries, they secrete the or they produce and release the ovum structure. Okay, so in case of male gamete also we had seen the outermost layer was called as when we looked at the section of the testis, the outermost layer was called as germinal epithelium. So this one also has the similar germinal epithelium, but it is responsible for producing the ova structure or the ovum structure, and it is also called as ovarian epithelium or germinal epithelium. Germinal, like again I had mentioned, because it gives rise to the germ cells. It can be either sperm in case of male, or it can be either ova in case of female. That does not mean that both the germinal epitheliums they are same. Yeah, they will have certain differentiated functions within the cell of this germinal epithelium. Do not consider both of them, even though they are called a germinal epithelium. That does not mean they are same in male and female. They are drastically different because they produce at the end, one produces sperm, the other one produces the ova. So it is the outermost layer of the ovary, formed of a simple cuboidal cells. This is just the structure, which is modified visceral peritoneum. Visceral is kind of cavity. Viscera is called as where the internal organs lie. Now ovary is also one of the internal organs, so that cavity is called as viscera, and because it is located within the peritoneal cavity, or we can say abdominal cavity, it is called as visceral peritoneum. Now this part I will show you. So this outermost line, the darker like cellular line that is being shown, that is the germinal epithelium, or it is also called as ovarian epithelium, and this is what will give rise to the ova follicle at the end upon differentiation.
Sir,
Yes.
so visceral peritoneum is all like the same as germinal epithelium, the outermost layer?
No. Visceral peritoneum. See, now outside the ovary, you will have certain membranes, correct?
Yes.
So those membranes, when the ovary structure is forming, this membrane, they are in conjunction with this germinal epithelium, and that is what they are trying to say. Upon differentiation, that is during the earlier stages when the ovaries they are about to develop in the embryo or in the fetus, that is what the visceral peritoneum at that time will become like when it is modified, or it will become the ovaries germinal epithelium over the growth of the fetus.
Okay.
That does not mean that visceral peritoneum is same, and then rest of the visceral peritoneum stays as the structure surrounding the ovaries.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so that is the germinal epithelium or the ovarian epithelium. Now, excuse me, wait, there is something down, excuse me please. Okay, sorry. So the tunica albuginea. Tunica again we had seen in case of male testes as well. Tunica refers to the layer or a membrane. So tunica albuginea is poorly differentiated capsule of dense fibrous connective tissue. Now this is capsule refers to kind of uh, what you say, like let me show you this kind of structure. That's a capsule. I don't know how to explain. It's like a round spear like structure, or literally like a capsule, how we know of from the medicine. So that's the capsule. Not this one, but yeah, all these structures, they are actually capsular structure. So that is what it means. So tunica albuginea is poorly differentiated capsule of dense fibrous connective tissue that lies below the ovarian epithelium. So just below the inside part of the germinal epithelium is your tunica albuginea. And like actually this part, whole of this part is called as tunica albuginea, which is right next to the germinal epithelium. Then the stroma. Stroma is again a general terminology, which means all the inner part of the organ. So let's say, for example, if we have liver, and if you just take out peel of the liver organ, whatever is inside, it will be called as stroma. Same goes for brain, and same goes for any other organ. So similarly for ovaries, if you take out the germinal epithelium, whatever is inside is called as stroma, and that consists of, again, same, that is the outer ovarian cortex and inner ovarian medulla. So this part, which is not really differentiated in terms of segment, but the core you can say is medulla of the ovarian medulla, and the area next to the germinal epithelium, which also includes the tunica albuginea, that will be part of the ovarian cortex. Yeah, you see cortex is defined until here, but again that does not really differentiate the cortex. So again, if you imagine this ovary as a three-dimensional structure, like a spherical or oval ball or capsule like structure, so whenever you go from outside to inside at the core will be medulla, and the outer walls, below the epithelial, germinal epithelium, and outside the medulla, that is still the inner part of the ovary, that is cortex. I hope you are.
Uh, so the development of the oocyte is only limited to the cortex.
Yeah, you can say that, because ultimately the cortex, uh, as in the germinal epithelial, will give rise to these cells, and they will differentiate over the time, and they will form the oocyte.
So the medulla remains empty, like
It's something similar. Let me see if I have that diagram also. Not really here. So if you remember, I will show you that particular diagram from the male testes. Yeah, here, like how we had seen, from the germinal epithelium, these cells, they differentiate, they go towards the medulla or the inner core of these lobules, and they form spermatids, and which mature, and then they go further for the fertilization process. Something similar is there in the ovaries. It is the germinal epithelium which will keep differentiating into layers towards the medulla portion, and then finally near the medulla, what you have is the quite matured the ova structure. This is something similar even in case of ovary. It's not different there also. It just the, because we have to show this diagram. See, if I have to show that first is this structure, then is this structure, and then is this structure, and so on, then I will not have space to represent from cortex to medulla, and that is why it is differentiated like this. This does not mean that only, like, let's say this portion of the ovary will have the earlier cell which will mature, and then which will further mature, and they go line wise or one after another towards the end of the ovary. That is not the way. It's from outside to the inner core of the medulla or the ovarian medulla, where the cells get differentiated, and from the medulla they escape the ovary. Did you get what I said?
Okay, so like the corpus albicans, it's in the center or something, and it develops there.
uh, that is what I said. It is not center or outside. As and when those cells they keep on differentiating, let's say this is a different structure by them. Yeah, this is like we will see what corpus luteum is, but these are the actual ovarian follicles, or what we call as the ova structure at the end. So these will keep on differentiating, and like now they have shown in line, but ideally they should be from the germinal epithelium to the medulla portion towards the center, and then from the medulla they will go outside.
So it's so like the structure are not at the side. They are where are they? Are they at the center then?
They are arranged from the cortex to medulla. So let's say this one will be closer to cortex or closer to germinal epithelium, right? Then this one will be next inside. This one will be next inside. This one will be next inside. This will be just next to the medulla portion. And from there, it will come out through the ovarian wall. Did you get what I said there, or still confused? See, again, like I say, diagrams, they are just the representation. They does not dictate everything that is there present inside your body. It's always the case, because you need to show the structures how they exist. Otherwise, if you look at this part of germinal epithelium, according to this diagram, will never give rise to the oocyte, because it's always this part, because the primary follicles are being shown, right? That is not the case. All the parts of the germinal epithelium, they slowly give rise to the oocyte or the ova structure, because these portions they are located, all these structures they are located towards the inner core of the ovary. That is what the ideal diagram would be. But if we try to draw that diagram, it will be really huge, and that is why it is not being drawn like that.
Okay, so all the structures are at the inner core.
Again, it's not at the inner core. They are aligned from cortex to medulla. I don't know if you mean the same, but the way you say it is quite different. These are not at the inner core. Inner core, I would call only this portion, which is medulla.
So they covered the space of the whole ovary.
Correct. From cortex again to the medulla, towards the medulla. This whole portion, whole stretch from germinal epithelium towards, when we go inside towards the medulla, that will be occupied by all these different types of cells.
Okay. So it's quite large then.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the stroma part, which contains your ovarian cortex, that is the outer part within the germinal epithelium, and the innermost core, that is the ovarian medulla. Then ovarian cortex is more dense outer part of the ovary. Now again, medulla is usually a little spongy, or can be even a cavity like structure. So, but cortex is always a very thick portion, or which is a dense layer of the cells of that particular organ. If you remember, we had also seen the morphology, anatomy and morphology of the roots and the stem and so on. There also the cortex was always very thicker, and the inner core had those xylem phloem tissues, which is more like cavity. Something same. So all these living organisms, they have something in common, and the reason is because they have a kind of common evolutionary background. So it's something similar with the ovarian cortex as well. It has a dense outer part of the ovary and contains young and mature follicles. Now again, you start imagining from the germinal epithelium, those cells, they will form the young and mature follicles. It contains large mass of yellow cells, which is called as corpus luteum. So this mass that you see, which is called as corpus luteum. It is actually formed in the antrum, or which is also called as cavity of the ruptured Graafian follicles. Now, Graafian follicle is one of the structure which we'll see in the process of oogenesis. So this is the Graafian follicle. Now, when this structure is not functional anymore, or when it is physically ruptured, or the follicle itself has not formed well through the differentiation process, what this will lead to is this corpus luteum structure. So these two structures, they are same, just this is the functional one and this is the ruptured one. So all the cells of the Graafian follicle which are when they are ruptured, they form this corpus luteum structure, and it is located in the antrum, or the part of the ovarian cortex, and that is why ulta. And that is why this is shown in the cortex and not at the center, because again, like I mentioned, and this is shown as relatively huge structure. This usually does not occupy a space from cortex to medulla. Understand that as well. It is just the feature or representation of, like if say there were quite many Graafian follicles and they are all ruptured, then it will occupy a little bigger space. But if it is just few Graafian follicles being ruptured, it will occupy a relatively smaller space. Also, what they are trying to show here is, if the size of the Graafian follicle is this, and if there are 3 or 4 Graafian follicle being damaged or ruptured, then it will form a size of corpus luteum of like this specific dimension. That is what. But the Graafian follicle in the whole ovary itself is a very tiny like a cell or tiny cluster. Then it will not, in terms of size, it will not represent how it is shown here. So that is the corpus luteum and the Graafian follicle. Again, I will not talk about Graafian follicle here because we are going to look at that in the oogenesis process, that is formation of the ova. Corpus luteum is one of the important structure because it secretes the progesterone hormone during pregnancy and also secretes relaxin hormone towards the end of the pregnancy. Relaxin, as the name suggests, it relaxes the whole of the reproductive structure so that it's easy outward journey of the baby from the mother's body. So that is why this relaxin is required, and progesterone has all the other regulatory function in terms of menstruation or even the maintenance of these oocytes and so on. So that is the function of corpus luteum. So it's not that only Graafian follicles they are the required structure in the ovary, but also this corpus luteum which is formed from the Graafian follicle itself, they are also equally required structure in the ovary. Ovarian cortex also has a white body which is called as corpus albicans. Albicans or alba usually refers to white. So corpus albicans is the white part of this cortex, which is degenerating corpus luteum. So Graafian follicle, when it is ruptured, it forms corpus luteum. When corpus luteum is degenerating, that is, it's about to die completely, then it will form corpus albicans, and that is what is shown in this diagram. So this is Graafian follicle, corpus luteum, and corpus albicans. Now imagine if this Graafian follicle is ruptured, will it form corpus luteum here? No, it will form at this place only. And the corpus albicans also will be formed at this place only, but in the later frame of the time. So that is why I say this is the representation. And now you can probably make sense of it, whatever I was trying to say earlier. So Graafian follicle, when it will be ruptured, it will form corpus luteum here itself, which is shown here just for the representation purpose, and the corpus albicans, which is the degenerating corpus luteum structure, which will again be formed here itself if the Graafian follicle is getting ruptured and so on. I hope you understand how this functions now. Okay, so that was the ovarian cortex. Ovarian medulla, it contains many rounded oval bodies, and they are called as ovarian follicles, found at the various stages of development. Various stages of development is again at the different stages. Like you can see here, various stages of the development. Again, I will not go into the details. This is just to show you a brief idea here. We will look at the stages in the oogenesis process. So that is the ovarian medulla. Uh, each follicle contains large ovum surrounded by many layers of the follicles. So each of the follicle, like you can see here, it contains a large ovum surrounded by many layers of the follicle cells. So these are the part of the follicle cells at the what you say surrounding part. The follicle cells of a maturing follicle secretes estrogen into the blood, and these cells, they are responsible for secretion of the estrogen into the blood. Now, if you look at this diagram on the top, you can see 1, 2, the numbers that they have given is with respect to these structures they are being mentioned here. Now again, similar representation is here. The medulla as such is a kind of empty space which allows the finally synthesized follicle, that is 5 to 6 is this one, right? These are the actual follicles which will be released into the medulla, and then they will be carried either through this wall which you see here like ovulation, and then when whatever is the space left out, that will form the corpus luteum and the corpus albicans structure. Yeah, so this is kind of representation how the journey of the follicle happens in the oval. So that
So,
was, yes,
but aren't the follicles shown at the cortex?
follicle shown at the cortex. What do you mean?
I mean, like you said that the corpus luteum, it's formed at the cortex and stays in the cortex, right?
Corpus luteum will be found wherever the Graafian follicle is.
Oh but that's at the cortex, right?
Correct.
And therefore, like all the stages of the formation will also happen in the cortex, in that same place, in the
Right.
cortex.
Right.
So why are they saying that the ovarian follicle is at the medulla? Like they are
Because
supposed to be on
when,
the side.
when the final ovarian follicle is generated, it will be going towards the medulla, no? Again, I will give you the same analogy here. Let me go back. Where is that diagram? Imagine this is the medulla and this part is the cortex, right? Germinal epithelium, primary follicle, secondary follicle, Graafian follicle, which comes towards the medulla. Are you getting what I am trying to say?
Yes, so it grows bigger.
Yeah, it grows bigger, but also it moves towards the inner core, that is the medulla.
So, but to release the oocyte outside, shouldn't it move towards the cortex?
Yeah, so that is when it again moves back, no? So medulla again, if you imagine this in a three-dimensional space, uh, how do I explain this part? Because see, the problem comes is when we show the diagrams in two dimensional, that is where the problem is. And I'm kind of lacking that explanation how to make you people imagine in 3 dimension. Maybe so what you are saying is correct, but ultimately this portion of the cortex is not, see, the size of ovary itself is like very small. It's like hardly what was the thickness, 1 centimeter in thickness. So you can imagine what would be the size of this Graafian follicle and all of this, so that they don't have to cross so much of area. Again, the medulla that is shown here is not this huge. It's just the fault in the diagram. People do whatever they want in their diagram. That is the problem. If you look here, medulla is not at all visible. It all looks like a cortex, right? So these are the problems here also. If you look, there is no medulla as such being shown. right? So these are the kind of follicles which keeps growing, and then they form structures like this. So wherever this Graafian follicle is, see, whenever this follicle, let's say the follicle was formed here, and the follicle has to leave from the edge, that is the uh, what you say, the germinal epithelium, it has to cross through that way, then it will not go towards the inner part later after the Graafian follicle is part, because it will come towards the uh, edge, or come towards the germinal epithelial side, or more towards the end of the outer part of the cortex, and then it will be released.
So on the in the diagram on the right, so like is that the picture of the medulla or is that the whole ovary?
This is the follicle, one follicle. Ovary is relatively very huge. What they are showing
Oh,
here
okay,
is only this part, right?
okay,
See,
okay.
site is being shown here. Antrum is that cavity which is inside the ovarian follicle, and this outer edge is being shown here like this cluster of cells. So that's what is being shown here. Is this part clear, or there are still doubts about it?
So maybe like in the next class, maybe you or I can look up for a better diagram that actually shows on the internet, and then it'll be much clearer visually.
Exactly, I do the same thing, but what happens is, when they have diagram, either they not haven't shown all the structures, or they have shown something like this which is weird. So it's best to take something in between. I haven't found the best diagrams even in the textbooks that we have. These are just structural diagrams, and we don't just want to look at the structure, we also want to understand the physiology, how exactly does it happen inside, and that what is lacking in most of the diagrams. But yeah, if you find it, it's well and good for all of us. I will also try to search more, but like, and that is the reason I try and keep so many diagrams, so that one diagram says something else, so I can explain it from there and give you better idea. But yeah, again, we can do better. So this was the ovarian cortex and the ovarian medulla, which was the part of the stroma apart from the germinal epithelium. I hope this part is clear to everyone. Why is there a blank slide? Why does it happen always? I don't understand. There are always some blank sides in between. Okay, so that was the ovary structure. I guess I would like to stop here because it's too much of the content. Why don't you use this time, which is kind of 10 minutes, to look for the three-dimensional representation of the ovary, especially the section of the ovary on the YouTube, and watch through it. I will also check, and if I find a better video, I will share it with you all, if at all we have it existing. Okay, anyone has any question apart from Pratham? He has already asked enough. Mansi, Girisha, Akshay, do you have any question?
I had one question. It will come again later on also. So after the oocyte is released into the abdominal cavity, why can't it just like float away in the abdomen?
The you mean the ovule?
Yeah, I know that those hair-like follicle things are there to the fallopian tube, and they like sort of brush it in. But I don't understand why you can just go off the other direction. Right?
So like now again, we consider this structure as hanging structures, which is not decades, right? When we think of them as a hanging structure, then this would happen. But ideally